What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Packed Power Weekly Podcast. I'm your host, Cory Smith, here with Charlie Gribble. I'll just get everybody along with Miles Masercola. Let's keep the applause going. Appreciate you guys for joining me. Before we get things started, I really want to give a shout out, as always, to Amedios for hosting the podcast. I was not given any, talking points for this one, so I'm just going to shout them out because there will be ACC Tournament play this upcoming week. NC State starts on Wednesday at 12 at noon, so I'm assuming they will be hosting quite a few people here, so do make sure that you come out to Amedios to watch if you have the afternoon off for those days and you're not watching it on the rollout carts at school or anything along those lines. You can come by Amedios at noon on Wednesday. They play again on Thursday, maybe again on Thursday, and we'll see how far this team goes. But plenty of incentive to be able to come out and watch the games here at Amedios. So we'll talk much more about that and NC State, where they stand. First of all, Charlie, how are you doing, sir?
Good. Loving the weather. Not loving the recent Wolfpack sports, but like loving the weather.
Miles, how about you, man?
I'm definitely right there with Charlie. I'm loving the weather. I've been outside 7+ hours a day every day for like a week, so
yeah,
feeling really good.
I dressed up in a hoodie for the last day. I don't know what I was thinking. I've been inside all day. I've been inside working all day. It's a pretty thin hoodie, but I was thinking, I don't know what I was doing exactly, but yeah. So let's just jump into things. NC State. We're gonna spend the first half of this talking about NC State men's basketball. We'll talk some women's hoops. We'll talk baseball. We might even brush up into some wrestling and softball as well before we roll out of this thing. But starting with men's basketball, which is what most people, for better or worse, want to talk about. The last week for NC State, we didn't have a podcast last week on Monday because of the Duke game, so we won't highlight too much about that. We'll just go straight forward to what happened against Stanford, which was a much tighter game and a game that if you're NC State, either one of those would have sealed your fate in the NCAA tournament. I think this is an NCAA tournament team. We'll talk about the resume, all those different things here in just a second. But Miles, I'll start with you. Just your thoughts on NC State's finish to the season, the game against Stanford, and what they need to do to kind of rectify the situation.
I actually really genuinely, I think I texted you this before, like I genuinely thought that it would be a much more complete NC State effort at both ends of the floor.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like it was gut check time for them. If you were playing anybody other than the consensus national championship favorite and Duke, 5 days earlier, that might have been it was kind of a tough indicator to see truly where they were at because of the way Duke has been playing and really the way NC State has been playing. It was, matching up at the wrong time for NC State to kind of have an advantageous situation in that game. You come into Stanford, it's senior day, you have that energy, you throw Jordan Snell in the starting lineup, which, obviously he doesn't have the same ability as a lot of the other guys, but the emotional spark of having a guy like that in your lineup, you would think would provide enough energy. And they had spurts of really, really good moments. But the biggest thing that this NC State team has to check with themselves is they let the opposition's top guys get too comfortable too early.
Yeah.
And it happened against Duke with Isaiah Evans. I was at the game watching, and he missed a lot of these shots. I don't know how closely everybody was watching that game, but in the first 7 minutes of that game, he probably had 5 wide open threes where he didn't really have to work for them. If a guy has to work to get an open shot, man, he earned it. That's great. He broke us down off the bounce. He made a play. That happens. That's basketball. These kids are very high. But when you allow your team's, the opposition's top two or three leading scorers to consistently get comfortable before you get to the under 12, they're going to be comfortable. They're really, really good players. So I think the KYP, which is what we say in basketball, know your personnel, that is something that this roster has to be acutely aware of heading into the ACC tournament. And that, in my opinion, is the biggest reason why we've seen the season kind of teeter off as down the stretches. They're not – one, they don't have a ton of edge naturally. Will has said that all year. They're not a physical team. Yeah. They're not necessarily the toughest team. That's what happens when you build a roster in 3 weeks. You can't really account for the personalities. You have to go get certain types of players. But those players have all been playing basketball for a while. They're all experienced. They've all won. We've seen them win this year. they have to really do a better job of understanding what they're dealing with from an individual perspective and preventing those elite players from getting in a rhythm early, whether they're getting hot or not. They're just too comfortable too early.
Yeah, another guy that got really comfortable was the guy on Saturday, Nkogi.
He was unbelievable.
Went for 30+ and down
he
the
actually
stretch.
struggled early.
I was going to
struggled early.
Yeah.
He was. I think he started the game 1 for 5 and 1 for 6.
Yeah.
Most of those looks were great looks,
and they hit 3 straight threes.
Exactly. So like, if you guys have ever listened to a podcast or ever even heard me speak, I'm a firm believer in the law of averages. Good players get to their average.
Yeah.
They will find a way to get there, and if they're going to miss 4 in a row and they're a 50% shooter, that means they're probably going to hit 4 in a row.
Oh, and in Stanford's offense, I mean, if he's not going, then the whole offense isn't going. But yeah, down the stretch, it felt like he really put Stanford on his back and carried them to a win. But State had their chances a lot on Saturday. Tuesday or Monday was a different story. You're playing a team that's leaps and bounds ahead of you, kind of program wise. But you're down 2 and you've got the ball, and Copeland commits a turnover. Thought that was big, and we talked a little bit on the podcast, Corey, too. But technical 3 throw. I mean, you lose the game by 1. You send Darian Williams to the line, the guy that you're trying to get going. He finished the game 1 for 8. If he finishes the game 1 for 8, I think NC State's going to lose just about every game. I mean, and I think that's kind of been the missing piece for this roster is there is no alpha. There is no guy right now, at least specifically. We'll see what happens in the tournament. There isn't a guy right now that I think Will Wade is comfortable with. Here's the ball. Go make a play for yourself and go get 2 or 3 points for me. And that it really just hasn't been the case. It was maybe a little bit with Copeland during the 6-game winning streak, at least, playmaking wise, maybe off the dribble, giving an assist to Paul or Matt Abel. But here recently, it's felt like State's or other teams have accounted for that. Maybe let Copeland shoot a little bit more, and that's been hit or miss. I know on Saturday he was efficient from the floor, but they're pressing off of him and making him force him to make some plays that I think.
And I was going to say too, and this has been true with the good teams NC State has had in the last decade or two, and most good teams around the country. And this is honestly probably the one thing Duke doesn't have. You need a self-creator that can go bail you out of possessions. And Darian Williams was supposed to be that guy, and in times has been that guy, has been great. At the start of the Duke game, carried them offensively, gave them a chance early. But he just wasn't quite that guy, and Quadir Copeland isn't that traditional, I can go break you down and get a basket myself. His stuff usually comes out of ball screens in transition. So having a guy that can go get you a basket without a screen with 7 seconds left on the shot clock, being able to someone that could do that 2 to 3 times a half.
Simple actions.
Simple stuff that, okay, the first thing they stuffed it out, we got to go get one now. Can we do that? And that's an extra 10 points a game that you just did not get. And that wins you a lot of these games, especially on this late stretch.
I was going to say, I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag with Quadir too, where some of it is his own doing, where he's forcing stuff a little bit too much, and he's making bad passes.
But a lot of his great plays come out of him forcing things too. It's just one of the things you have to live with.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think what I was going to say is I think it's a little bit of his own doing, but it's also, you think back to the great games that he's had, and a lot of those games have been him being able to pass out of things into wide open 3-point shooters and guys hitting those shots. If you think back to the SMU game, and it's like, oh man, he finished with 16 assists. Yeah, well, 13 of those led to 3-pointers in that game. So
how many
when other guys are
5 shots in that game, 6 shots in that game,
7 points.
Yeah, he took 4 or 5 shots.
Yeah, exactly. The only reason why he didn't end up with the triple double is because he didn't take a ton of shots, and it just feels like here the last couple weeks he's had to kind of emerge as a little bit more of a scoring threat and not being able to distribute as much to other guys. Now, granted, I think he should have finished better than 3rd team in the ACC. I think maybe 2nd team probably would have been warranted. Given the fact that he did finish with the most assists in the ACC, whether it's in or out of conference play, he actually finished with a 7.2 assists during conference play this season. So he was very, very good against ACC competition this year in terms of distributing the basketball. But part of my issue for this NC State offense, we can talk about the defense here in just a second too, the transition defense, the actual just base defense, anything along those lines. But on offense, the biggest issue has been just not being able to hit shots from outside. The last 4 games, NC State is shooting below 28% from 3-point range. This is a team that on the season, mind you, with those 4 games included, still averages over 38% shooting from 3-point range,
which is so good.
Was sitting at 39.5% before this stretch. So that gives you an idea of like, all right, if you can get that figured out, if you can get that kind of righted here once you get to the ACC tournament. Feels like this team could still have a great chance to be able to make that run, but you got to figure that out.
So what you're saying, Cory, is they have to make shots.
Yes,
they do.
Not just shots. Like
I know what you're saying.
You have to be able to make threes, which this team is supposed to be elite at.
Yes,
this team is supposed to be one of the best teams in the country.
And over and I literally just came from a meal with a college basketball coach, and we talked about the reactionary nature of college basketball compared to every other level of basketball. How it's so up and down. Like, this is a very, very good jump shooting team. If they revert to who they are, they should win a game or two in the ACC tournament and really be safe heading in to, 6 days from now. But
you really have to.
Yeah, and that's not something that just gets fixed, but it also is. It's kind of one of those weird things. But what NC State can do is control the controllables, and if they do that, kind of like we harped on, closing possessions, rebounding, knowing their personnel, valuing the basketball, not turning it over as much, that can counteract a poor shooting night and still allow you to win some games. Yeah. Which, they're going to have to be able to do if they want to be able to, string some wins together and get on a run. But the beauty of this NC State team is we know they can get scorching hot and put up 115 on you. But you just want to make sure that it's balanced and consistent night to night. But unfortunately, that is just not how the way things are or typically are in college basketball.
Well, because especially with the rotation you have right now in the front court, obviously Luben's getting the heavy minutes, but I feel like we've seen less of Musa Sanye, whether due to injury, availability. He only played a couple minutes the last time against Stanford. He still is kind of rushed, project developmentally still kind of lacking there. Ibube comes in, it's kind of a wrecking guy right before maybe the media breaks, but he's not really going to be the guy that's going to get you a lot of points in the paint.
He's a matchup dependent guy, though. I think there's situations this year, and Will might see it in the ACC tournament. He's a guy where Ibube has someone else to match up with that is in the game. They can find some more minutes for him because at the very, very least, he provides an edge and spark, especially on the glass and protecting the rim, where it's like, I do not want to have that guy touch me.
Well, and the fans love when he come in, too.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he had 5,011 minutes against Duke, and
he was physical,
and he was probably the most physically and most emotionally in it in that game entirely. But but not going to give you much offensively. But at least I know we'll probably mention the defense here in a second, Cory. At least defensively, I think he gives you more of a edge, kind of
at least a presence
around the rim, a presence around the rim. You love Luben, you love his efficiency offensively, but I don't think you're going to get a whole lot on the other floor from him.
Yeah, plus that, and if you're playing switch, like if you're switching a ton and you're switching 1 through 4, and you're leaving Vinal Luben down low consistently, or leaving Scotty Ibube down low defensively,
you can't switch.
Difference.
You can't switch 1 through 5 with Scotty in the end. That's the one luxury that Ben can do is he can switch out a little bit inside the feet. Kind of back to the big picture aspect of it. It does feel very apparent that Quadir Copeland is the emotional and vocal leader of this team.
And the problem is keeping him on track right now.
100%. Yeah. I do think, though, the reset of the end of the season and going into Quadir Copeland is a kid that appears to be keenly aware of who he is, which is all you can really ask for of anybody. He knows who he is. He knows where his shortcomings might be. He knows where his strengths are. But for him getting everybody in line, that's the biggest thing he can do. Even if he goes out there and struggles, but you can kind of tell he's rallied the troops and everybody else is playing better. That'll be the biggest thing to get off on the right foot in Charlotte, because there's nothing you can do about the way you ended your season at this point other than go in and give it everything you have on Wednesday afternoon. So
it's not a situation where you have to win 5 straight.
Yes.
Just need one.
And part of my issue too, and we can talk about this, obviously, if we're talking about the shortcomings, what's happened this year, it's the fact that, quite frankly, you expected more out of Darian Williams.
100%.
If we're being honest. And even if Darian Williams is not having a great offensive performance overall, you need him to step in when guys like Quadir Copeland are struggling, when guys like Quadir Copeland are forcing or pressing. And that was where I felt the biggest issue was in the Stanford game was Quadir Copeland clearly didn't have it, but the fact that Darian Williams didn't step up and either make shots or step up to, run the point and distribute the basketball. When neither of those things happen for you, then Quadir Copeland feels like he has to put more on his shoulders. So that's why I don't put all the blame on him. And I don't put all the blame on Darian Williams. It's just both of them have to play off of each other. As Will Wade said, I believe it was after like the UNCG game. Like it was early on in the season. He was asked about, what do you expect out of the two of them? And he said quite simply, I just need them to run parallel with each other. I don't need them running into each other, and I don't need them running away from each other. I need them running parallel and being the guys, because those are going to be your guys that are playing on the ball. 30% usage rate for both of them. You need those guys to be elite for you, whether it's from a scoring standpoint, a distributing standpoint, or one of those two. When you have Darian Williams shooting 1 of 8 and only 3 assists in the game, and then Quadir Copeland, 7 of 13, and then ends up with 2 assists to 6 turnovers, like that's not a winning formula. And still, NC State only lost by 1 against Stanford, a good team, a team that's on the bubble right now. And I think if you can go into the ACC tournament and have those two actually running parallel to each other, and then having other good players around them, having Paul McNeil have a good, you don't need a great game, having Matt Abel have a good, you don't need a great game, Vinon Lubin, efficient underneath the basket, Trey Holloman, when you come in, just needs you to make winning plays. Like all of those things, you should be winning games in the ACC tournament, at least against Stanford. I don't know about Virginia. It's going to be much tougher, but you should be winning games by the margin that you expected on Saturday, which was, I believe, 8.5 by the end of this thing.
Yeah. And I think too, like for Darian, like he didn't come to NC State to get honorable mention all ACC.
No.
Like that
he came here to be the guy.
He came here to win ACC Player of the Year, and it just did not work out that way. But you now have the chance to get it right. And the beauty of it is, like, there's pressure on them to win this week.
Yeah.
But it's not the level of pressure. It's like, we got to run the table or it's over. It's like, if we win one game, we're safe. We feel safe. Even if and we'll get into it later. I think even if they don't, I still think they're pretty safe, barring some stuff happening. But with that said, like, it's all right in front of them. It's a completely fresh slate. It's just now, do they have the mental fortitude to just flip that switch and leave what happened behind them? And that's where you have a group of new guys, but a group of older guys that have experienced the roller coaster that is playing college basketball at different levels for different coaches. So hopefully they're aware enough of what their situation to lock in and right the wrongs, because it's only a few small changes that can really shift these results.
Yeah, I mean, the sky isn't falling. You're 35th in the net right now, 36th in KenPom. If Stanford beats Pitt, which I think everybody imagines, you're looking at another quad 1 opportunity. But I wanted to ask you both, because I got a heated argument on Twitter with somebody.
Okay.
No way.
No way. Go right. Good figure.
I'm like 5 years free from Twitter arguments.
So like early,
you don't post enough. That's why.
Yeah. Exactly why. Exactly why. Just call me if you want to argue.
Yeah.
So we know, obviously, Will Wade's got like his antics. He's heavy on the mic. I was curious, for a program in year 1, you've got a bunch of new guys. You're looking to gel. Comments like, we're going to keep a third of the roster, or we've missed on some portal guys this year. I know maybe that's his way of motivating. Maybe at LSU, maybe at Mini State, that's worked. I don't think that's worked for this team. I think that might have been an unmotivating factor.
I have your point.
Darian Williams is more of a nonchalant kind of player, and you have a heavy and passionate Will Wade. And I think that's kind of where we're seeing this kind of division in this slide.
So kind of back to what I said earlier about how it's really hard to build a roster with personality in mind. And as I've kind of gotten in the recruiting world and dealing with NBA teams, like that is one of the most important things in building a roster, is the personality dynamic. For the kind of personality team that Will Wade wants, that is a motivating factor. He doesn't really know any other way.
Yeah.
You can't.
But I don't think this roster.
No,
it's the personality.
But he's not going to change who he is.
Yeah.
For that roster. Now that's a whole philosophical thing. If we want to talk about changing who we are for our surroundings and the downfalls of that, or the upside of that, and maybe he's like, man, it hasn't worked, but I don't really know what else to do. That could be the case, but Will is a very honest and transparent guy. I don't think he's going to change who he is because of that. And in the nature of college basketball right now, where I'm getting calls in September from coaches about kids that haven't even played a game yet about what they're going to do in the portal, that's how you have to be. You can't, like, that's just how you have to be. Unfortunately, like in this world where everybody's got an agent, players, coaches, If you don't have an agent, you're consulting with an agency. Everybody's trying to make the most amount of money they can. It's a very, very interesting thing. Because of that being the way it is, you have to be honest.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I that's how I believe in it as someone that's like neck deep in this business. And there's just not really any other way to do it. It might rub some people the wrong way. It might rub your own players the wrong way. But if it does, then maybe those players aren't meant to play for you. And that's also what that's doing is he's letting his staff know we can't miss again.
Yeah, and part of it too, and it's funny because I've had multiple conversations with you about this, Miles, in the past where I've texted you and been like, hey, NC State says they're going to go after this guy, and you're like, that would be a terrible idea. This guy is a really crappy person, and we won't go into names, but
there was a sinner.
Just think of one name from NC State from the last 5 years.
I can give you initials, BHH.
But that wasn't even one of them.
Yeah, I know.
I'll tell y'all after we get off.
I know.
Yeah.
But the thing I'll add to that too is, first of all, some of the comments were a little bit misconstrued. The 1/3. Returning 1/3 of your roster.
Everybody's emphasizing
He mentioned first of all that 5 of the players already can't return. More than likely, 2 of them won't return because of the fact that Allen Breed, he just has a decision to make on whether or not he wants to continue playing college basketball in general. And then there's another one that is going to be gone after this year too. But then you have the other aspect too, where it's like, do you want to be honest? Do you want to tell guys look, man, we're in a competition to figure out who we want to have next year and let that be a motivating factor? So if guys don't respond in that way,
see ya.
Yeah.
That's kind of
exactly.
You're building a roster year to year. We see guys just to be honest, you're not going to see a whole lot of 4-year senior days at NC State basketball, regardless of who the coach is.
That's why Breon Pass was so unique last year.
100%.
Yeah, and Snow.
Oh, well, yes, Jordan Snow, yes, exactly.
Yeah, but and unfortunately, because a lot of the pageantry and tradition of basketball and college athletics is lost in that. But if you're a 19-year-old kid, you just have to do what's best for your situation, and because of how everything is, all these coaches are doing whatever they can to make sure they continue to get their 6-figure monthly checks.
Yeah,
that's how it is.
But I will. The thing I will add.
Yes.
Back to what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it's necessarily Will Wade's fault in this situation because that's how he wants his team to play. He sees that as a motivating factor. The issue is I don't know that there's enough people on this roster or alphas on this roster that were able to step up in that situation. That's the issue you're running into.
Do his comments land with the team? It hasn't appeared that way yet.
No.
Yeah. At least for some of them. Like him coming to Darion's defense the way he did, I think landed with Darion a little bit.
Yeah.
But whatever it did has teetered off, and it's
not long enough.
Yeah. And it's a constant mind game of what Will is saying to us and what he's saying behind closed doors to them and their people. Yeah. And it's a very, very complicated thing to manage the narrative around your team.
Yeah, I get the point he was trying to make and what he was trying to do for the roster.
Yes.
There's been no sign of that, even close to landing with his team.
And that's emblematic of him not having a roster full of personality types that fit what they're trying to do.
And as you mentioned, 3 weeks.
You can't do that. You can't build a good roster and expect it to work perfect like that. But with that said, they built a pretty talented roster in 3 weeks. They're in line to make the NCAA tournament. They're coming in and they got a bye. They got an immediate chance of redemption for a team they just played on senior night and lost to. They get a chance to avenge that. They're in a pretty good spot. Again, college sports very reactionary. Big picture considered, it's been a relative 180 already.
So 100%. Well, yes, exactly. You're currently playing in the ACC tournament, which is different.
Corey knows this. You know this. I had a credential.
I'm just saying.
I had a credential for us last year to go to the ACC tournament.
Yeah.
NC State did not qualify. I walked around and got scuttle about when NC State was going to hire Will Wade. I just walked around and talked to people because there were no games for me to talk about or write about. So, so I'm happy to actually get to go down and watch NC State play.
All right, so let's go to the last aspect here for NC State, and this is entering the ACC tournament. So there's been a lot of talk about, is NC State in, is NC State out? Let's go over the resume really quickly. We'll go over what the bracketologists are saying so far, and then I'll get you guys' thoughts on what they need to do, where they stand going into this thing. Like you mentioned beforehand, 36th in KenPom, 30th in the KPI, 39th in the BPI, 35th in the net. So you're in top 40 in all of those, 38th when it comes to Evan Maya's rankings. or Evan Mia. God, I always screw that up.
Yeah,
it's Miyakawa. My bad. But and at this point, currently sitting 22nd in the country when it comes to quad 1 wins. So they're sitting at 11-11 overall, or quad 1 and quad 2 wins. So they're currently sitting at 11-11 overall between those two. Quad 1A games, they only have 2 wins, but they face 7 opponents that have been quad 1A and come out 2-5 of that. It's a pretty good number. Obviously, you would like to have a couple of those back. Maybe I don't know exactly what. I know that Miami is not going to qualify as a quad 1A, but like that would have been a nice quad 1 win, given where they're sitting at right now. Looking up and down the where they sit right now when it comes to the bracketologists. CBS has them as a number 9 seed against Utah State. Bracketometry, which is actually number 1 in the last 5 years when it comes to bracketologists, has NC State as a number 10 seed. A lot of people have, all the rest basically have NC State as a number 10 seed going into the ACC tournament. I know Joe Lenardi has NC State as the first last 4 buys. I forget how to say all that. But basically saying like they're 8 teams above the bubble right now. Mm-hmm. So they're in a good position going into the ACC tournament. But I think most people understand that there will be some bid sealers. There will be 3 or 4 of those.
Yep.
You lose a game against Stanford in the start of the ACC tournament. You drop 80 or 7 of your last 8 at that point. You lose 5 straight going into this whole thing. There's not there's no longer an eye test or anything that comes into the equation here. But there are going to be people that are going to use that against them as well when you get to the committee. So just you guys' thoughts on where NC State stands and if they truly do need this win against Stanford to get them in the NCAA tournament.
I don't think you need it, but I think you I'll say this, the nervous system of the fan base might need it.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to be really, really difficult to kind of imagine you lose Wednesday and you're just sitting there for 4 days watching results, seeing how things shake out, knowing that there is a very real possibility that you don't happen. I don't think there's going to be more than 5 bid stealers. And I think that does leave NC State in a position to make the tournament. But if you win that game, you feel really safe. I do not think they need it to get into the NCAA tournament, though. They might need it to get out and avoid going to Dayton, but I do not think they need it.
I really don't want to go to Dayton.
Yeah, that was my thoughts. If you lose, you're probably headed to Dayton. Similar situation to Carolina last year, playing San Diego.
I didn't even think about that possibility for that potential event we have either if they went to Dayton. Yeah. I haven't thought about that either.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, everybody.
Might move it up to Tuesday.
Yeah, not great. Yeah, they're not going to be hosting a watch party unless they win the whole thing next weekend, which is doubtful. But don't see a watching party to see where they land. But I think honestly kind of benefits you to slide a little bit as long as you win on Wednesday. You kind of want to avoid the 7-8 slot and getting paired with the 1 seed.
You mean 8-9, yeah.
Yeah, in the 8-9, if you win in the first round, you would play more than likely a 1 seed in the second round. And before this kind of 4-game skid, even before that, you're playing the likes of Michigan, UConn, Arizona, who all have 7-2 centers. Been
now UConn's number 2 seed. So
now UConn's number 2. But then you have Florida, who's got guys that are over 7.
You're going to have to beat good teams.
We're going across the floor, but I think if you go in as a 10 seed, kind of like NC State did in 2024, you would play the 2 seed in the second round. More beneficial, I think, for you at that slot. I mean, NC State lost 4 2 years ago. Don't have to run the table, as Miles said earlier. Really, I think you have to win 1 game to feel really, really comfortable about it. Avoid Dayton. Avoid all the people saying, we'll wait, year 1 going to Dayton.
I was going to say the other thing too is, the narrative around these, from a public narrative perspective. Unless you're Bruce Pearl, if you're a high loss count, high major team. They are going the public narrative is going to push Miami of Ohio if they lose, or one of these other teams if they lose. So you want, and as much as it does stink, the public narrative does matter. They say they don't listen to what people say, they listen. They just do. They can't avoid it. So
I wonder if there's any reason why Bruce Pearl's pushing. No, anyways, but
that nepotism.
Yes, I will add this as well. I said it on my podcast this morning. The fact that I do think NC State is in right now. But it's like, you have a 2-strike count in baseball. don't leave it up to the umpire.
Yeah.
If you have this situation right now, don't leave it up to the committee, because the committee will look at all the different warts, all the different things that are going on, but then they're still going to, like, as much as they say they don't look at the recent resume, they are going to look at, all right, can this team win when we put them in March? Can this team beat a 7 seed if we put them as a 10 seed? Can they win as an 11 seed and advance and try to knock off a 4 seed at that point, or whatever it is, but no, 3 seed at that point? Yeah. Can they do all those things and actually make this a fun team that gets in? And for NC State right now, it's about, all right, take care of business, get you 1 win, you are a lock at that point. Yeah. It's funny because I had somebody jump on the podcast the other day, and they're like, you're already explaining away not making a run in the ACC tournament. No, I'm not. I'm explaining what you need to do to get to the NCAA tournament, which, as much as the ACC tournament holds weight and as much as you want to win it, you need to get to the NCAA tournament in year 1. You need to prove that you're a good enough team to get there, and then set yourself up to potentially win a game or 2 once you get to the NCAA tournament. Because as of right now, if you even back in, there's still this like creeping
it's
thought
the trajectory
of
your team.
Are we even good enough to win a single game? But
if I see State on the last 4 buys, it's just like, oh man, you just kind of creeped on in.
Yeah.
But I thought preseason, maybe I'm wrong on this. I'm trying not to be a delusional State fan, but I thought year 1, even after I saw the roster, I thought round of 32, and I think I'm happy with that this year. Like if that's like my floor. Like if we make it to the round of 32, Sweet 16 at best, I call that a successful first year. New program, you're getting a lot of guys. Like I thought, from a national perspective, from a recruit perspective, if you make the round of 32, Sweet 16, if you're NC State, you're thrilled and you're moving on to your trip.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for Will is just like building that year-over-year consistency, even though there's going to be new players every single year, just kind of building that identity. Mm-hmm. That's what we're seeing in college sports. Like the teams that have a clear-cut identity and culture have the staying power. That doesn't always immediately mean you're going to win 29 games in year 1.
Oh, yeah.
You have to build something that's going to last consistently year over year, and that might be saying stuff that pisses your team off. To let people know, like, this is the kind of program we're going to be, even if it bothers some of the guys that might be on your current roster. This game is a gut check game. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. You will very much see, and they might lose this game, and you might still feel good about the way they went out and played. But this is a game where we'll see kind of what these guys are made of internally, especially the top 3 or 4 guys on the roster. It's time for them to show what they're made of.
Yeah, and he speaks to the culture. I mean, obviously Shire's built one at Duke. I think Ryan Odom took over a culture at UVA. Obviously, it's going off of Tony Bennett is different than going off of Kevin Keats, in my opinion. So
it's very different. Tony was there for a long time, and then obviously, like, the culture of all cultures was built in Durham by Coach K, and that was taken over and is looking good. They haven't broken through yet, but it just takes a long time. It's even in the modern day of college basketball to truly build it, sort of flip it on its head year 1. Put yourself in position to where you're going to be favored against a team in the ACC tournament. You win that game you're in, and you give yourself a chance from there. It's 1 game at a time from there. I think. Yeah.
And the other aspect I'll throw out there too, I know a lot of people are already making, the assumption, okay, well, Ryan Odom in year 1 was significantly better than Will Wade. Jay Lucas was
Jerome Tang had a big year 1 too.
Yeah, exactly. But guys, like, I mean, that's not a full program. So we'll see. I'd like to see what we see over the course of 3 years, whether or not these programs are truly built to last.
And Will Wade's kept notes too.
Yeah, and I know the 3 first-year coaches in the league have, like, truly done an incredible job right away.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, that's not taking anything away from them, but everybody's just kind of making this assumption like, oh, well, that's their program. They're going to be that every year. Winning 25-plus games every single year is not going to be easy, and it also is going to take year over year, like, finding guys that can consistently stay, because, like, DeRitter is already probably a guy that's going to be going to the NBA. You've got 3 guys at UVA that are going to leave after this year that are, elite players for them, along with Miami doing the exact same thing.
Absolutely.
How can you retain those things? For Will Wade right now, he's going to go to players. His selling point is probably, this was our worst year. We want you to be part of what we're building moving forward. And I think that's kind of your plan as well. Oh, yes, and exactly. Yeah, Nick said Luke Locks as well has done an awesome job. Yeah, like a lot of coaches have done a great job, and for Luke it was not easy. Like they got absolutely torched by NC State,
and that cupboard from a resource perspective was probably more empty than any of the other jobs coming in too. Yeah. And he's an NBA guy coming into college and having success right away. They were a scary offensive team. Gave Duke about as much of a scare as anybody this year besides Carolina when they beat them. So.
Yes, exactly. Last thing, and then we need to talk some women's basketball, baseball, and everything else on the second half. And Miles, will let you roll after that. But just you guys' thoughts on the ACC, all ACC teams as well. NC State landing 2, technically one being an honorable mention, the other being a third team guy. Just you guys' thoughts on NC State landing 2 on there, and then the actual overall all ACC ballot so far.
I haven't even seen the full ballot. I could try to guess, but at the same time, like I think Quadir probably had a case for second team, but him getting on there, and then Darion getting honorable mention, you could probably make the case for the third team. Is your computer back?
Yes.
Oh, that's fun.
Nope, we're back. Okay,
we're back. That's good.
Nope.
Good thing all the audio is going through me. So
is it touch and go, Charlie?
It is touch and go.
Okay,
man.
Just want to make sure everybody can hear us still.
I got my charger.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and do that while he's talking then, and I'll just cut all this audio out.
You guys are witnessing production in its purest form. I hope you guys are taking notes.
Yeah. So,
man, these guys do such a great job putting these shows together. This is putting the show
exactly. So, Miles, you can keep talking about it, and then I'll let Charlie try to get it fixed here.
I'll say this about the ACC, like seeing the league turn itself around into what it is this year, to where it was just in such a bad spot the last couple of years. Like the bottom of the league struggling as much as it did, and the middle class just being just so poor compared to the other Power 4 conferences middle classes. Getting the league back to where it rightfully belongs, getting Miami back on track, really getting Virginia, one of the proud programs in this league, back to where it belongs. And NC State doing the same thing. They were in the Final Four 2 years ago, had an awful season last year, back top 6 in the league. Or they finished 7th or 6th?
Seventh. Yeah.
So 7th in the league, and then you're in position to make the tournament. Like there's been a lot of good happening in this league. I'm very, very intrigued to see the hires that Georgia Tech and Boston College make. I feel like those are both very, very pivotal hires for the league, because of like the uncertainty of the next 10 years of the landscape of college athletics. You want to make sure that all of your programs are in the best position they could be.
Yeah, and I think that's why NC State's kind of benefiting right now, because I think if you finished with this record last year, you're farther on the bubble than I think you're already kind of sniffing now. You're kind of benefiting from a better league. You're benefiting from better scheduling. I wish our baseball team would do the same thing. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a second. But scheduling teams like Liberty, like VCU on nights where other teams are probably playing guys, net 200th and above, I think is really, like as Will Wade said in the Piskin presser, banked in a couple wins, obviously before this slide at the end of the year. But looking at the all ACC teams, I thought Quadir Copeland was the second team guy, was top 10 in the country in assisting per game at one point in the year. Finished most in the ACC during the ACC slate. Kind of questionable. I mean, I'm going to be truthfully honest. I don't think Darion Williams even deserved the honorable mention vote. To be honest,
could have been a pedigree vote.
Could have been a pedigree vote. And all preseason player of the year kind of maybe benefited from that. I mean, it just flat out honest. I mean, he just really wasn't that great for State, at least during the ACC portion of the year. Had a couple good games early, but not much sense. But definitely thought Copeland maybe was deserving of the second team. I know Kogi probably stole his first team, definitely deserving of that. But then Matt Abel, maybe a one or two freshman vote. Obviously, it's a loaded class, loaded conference in terms of freshman guys, but would have liked to see him get maybe a vote or two. I think he's going to be a guy for NC State, at least moving forward. It's going to be a bright spot and a guy that you want moving forward to stay on your roster, and you kind of build around him, and maybe Paul McNeil. We'll see.
Yeah, I think Paul McNeil got a couple votes for most improved player.
Yeah.
He's definitely deserving of that. How much he improved is definitely significant. How much his usage and role improved might be more significant. With that said, to Juke,
he wasn't hidden on the bench.
Yes, Juke Harris definitely deserved that award.
Yeah.
He went. It's kind of crazy.
He's a guy that NC should probably try and go get maybe.
Good. Tell him
if
good
he goes
luck.
in the portal.
Yeah.
He goes in the portal. Yeah.
Juke Harris is going to be a wealthy man soon.
Yeah.
So seeing him kind of in that 24 class, the three kids that were kind of grouped together, Juke, Paul, and Isaiah Evans at Duke, very similar positionally, seeing all three of them be kind of mentioned among that, very, very cool to see. All three guys that will have a chance to play in the NBA too. So,
all right, the last points I'm going to make really quickly because we do need to take a break so we can talk about some other things. The only other point that I'll make, Darian Williams didn't feel like he deserved, honorable mention. Again, I kind of go with you guys. The one guy that I do feel like deserved it was Vinal Lubin.
That's fair.
Guy that ranks top 20 in the ACC in scoring. Guy that ranks top 10 in the ACC in rebounds per game, especially in ACC play. And a guy that ranked number 1 in the entire ACC in field goal percentage. Will finish the year if he continues, if he doesn't drop 6 points in the ACC tournament or the NCAA tournament.
He'll go 1 for 28.
Yeah, exactly. He would finish as the all-time leading, field goal percentage player in NC State history in a single season.
Wow. Yeah, so, he also the epitome of consistency too.
Yeah.
Probably other than the other two Tobacco Road bigs are very consistent, but he's right there. You're basically.
And I'm not saying like he should have been first team.
No,
I don't
but
think by any stretch of the imagination.
You can
but
basically
the fact that he didn't even land on honorable mention or third team, just
kind of
shocking.
Death taxes and then getting 13 and 7.
Yep. It's just again, and I think it's also I talked about it a couple times in stories. Like we always highlight all of the other players. And then it's like, oh, well, Vinal Lubin got a double-double. Okay, well, that's what it was expected. So, all right, well, let's stop right there, and then we'll talk about We'll talk about women's basketball, baseball on the other side. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. All right, I need to plug in my computer too.
Yeah, the last question killed me because I was like,
did you mute us? Are we muted?
Oh, we're already muted the whole time. We're going
you
on.
Guys are muted, yes.
Oh yeah.
If all the audio goes through us.
Gotcha.
Are you saying?
So he definitely heard you. He said no one saw us.
All right, audio is back. Let's all right.
Maybe not obviously win it, but like a vote or two would have.
He didn't.
Yeah.
But I get. I mean, you got Boozer as a freshman killing it. So
yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Clark.
I don't think this team wants to win. I don't think they're motivated.
That's why I said like his personality, Wade's personality, and I think the locker room, the teams, maybe outside of Copeland, obviously, it just isn't.
Are you doing with the mic?
Sorry,
it's gonna mess it up.
It just isn't vibing. I don't think they're taking in what he's trying to do. Obviously, with some teams, it's worked for him. LSU, Benice, it's probably worked, and it's a motivating factor. But I just don't think it's a motivating factor for this team. I really don't.
So much.
Because everybody complains about Darian being nonchalant, kind of go with the flow. He's always smiling, and that maybe rubs people the wrong way. I just generally think that's his personality. Even if he's struggling, he's not going to get fluttered. He's going to try to, focus on what he needs to do. And Will Wade's, obviously very vocal, on the sidelines, in timeouts. And I just don't think it's just not receptive currently.
Yeah. All right. I'm trying to find my stories the other day, and they are not popping up. All right. Do not know why. So that I can go over those.
I've got some questions.
All right, yes. All right. All right. Let's jump back into this thing in
Where are we going first?
women's basketball.
Okay, all right.
And then we'll finish strong with baseball.
Okay.
We're just going to do the
hang out.
list. Okay, all right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Get started in 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Pack Power podcast. I was completely restarting the podcast for some reason. All right, so on the second half here, let's talk a little bit about women's basketball, and then we'll touch on baseball as well before we wrap this thing up. On the women's basketball side, not the ACC tournament that you wanted. NC State gets the double bye, and look, that seemed like a positive. The unfortunate part is you knew going into this thing you were more than likely going to have to face Notre Dame, who is one of the more difficult matchups for NC State just because of the fact that they play an up-tempo offense. They're a very physical defense and rely on steals. NC State, 17 turnovers in that game against Notre Dame. And then, that's 10 turnovers for Notre Dame in that one. That was the second most turnovers of the season for NC State. The most happened to be 22 in South Bend back in the middle of February. Another blowout loss for NC State, but 81-63 was the final there. This is a team that, finished strong with the last 2 games of the season, but they were not against good competition. When they've ran into good competition on the season so far, the top 4 in the ACC and even Notre Dame, I believe at this point they are now 0-6 against those teams. So it does not look good once you've actually had to play good competition. That doesn't, bear well once you get into the NCAA tournament as well. But, Charlie, just your thoughts on this team, the way they finished the season. Obviously, another good game for Camille Pierre, overall. But as we've said, that's kind of the norm. That's the expectation going in. But just as a team overall, just not a good showing.
Yeah, it's a lot of – you can kind of parallel it to the men's team. Lubin, you expect to show up here. You can kind of expect to show up. I think having Trigger score 0 points, only taking 2 shots is what kind of stood out to me.
And those 2 shots were free throws, mind you.
Yeah.
You take an actual shot.
Oh, yeah. No, she was – oh, yeah. Fair enough. Even worse than I originally thought. But, it just feels like it's a young team. I think you kind of miss some portal guys, similar to the men's team, whether Westmore actually goes out and says that or not. And like kind of like Miles said, with the men's team playing against Stanford and playing against Duke, NC State and Westmore let Notre Dame's players and their best players, especially in Hidalgo, get comfortable and get comfortable early. I mean, 25 points for Hidalgo. She did miss both her threes, but 5 assists, 5 rebounds. You let her get comfortable, and you let Moore get comfortable down low too. And just watching the game, I turned it on in the second quarter, and it felt like it was almost already over, unfortunately. But I still think this is also, again, a tournament team that you still finished top 4 in the ACC. You had the double bye, so you would have thought you could kind of get some more effort, coming off a couple days rest. But I still think it's a tournament team. I still think it's a team that can win a couple games in the tournament. Could be, I want to say I saw their bracketology in the 7-9 area, kind of similar to what NC State's men's team was before this 4-game slide. But we'll see. I think you definitely need some help more on the perimeter. Brooks has obviously been your go-to girl. She only had 10 points against Notre Dame, so you really kind of need to get her going. And 14 points for Zam Jones, but on 5 of 13 shooting. Kind of need that to be more efficient, but I think it's just a young roster. I think there's been some growing pains. I think, in terms of next year, I know there's still more games probably for Westmore in his squad this year, but I think in terms of next year, you're going to need some more help on the outside. I feel like if you could bring Pierre back, you feel very comfortable about what she can give you. Figure out kind of what's going on with Trigger, get them to play, better, more together, at least down low, and just find kind of more of a consistent scoring threat that can kind of work off of Brooks and Jones on the outside.
Yeah, part of the problem for this team right now is the fact that you've backed yourself into a bit of a hole when it comes to the NCAA tournament. And as you mentioned, they're seen as somewhere around 7 or 8, but right now NC State actually sitting at the 8th seed, according to Charlie Cream, projected to play against Iowa State, which would not be a great matchup. You do not want to play against their big. And then, you also have potentially, if you were to get there.
She's the Burns of women's basketball.
Yes, exactly. And very physical, but also just so smooth around the basket. But then, you potentially go into a number 1 seed bracket. So you're like, the difference between men's basketball and women's basketball is, when you're an 8 seed playing a 1 seed in, like down in South Carolina or, somewhere across the country, it's one thing because everybody just suddenly starts rooting for whoever won to get, to beat that team. When you're on the women's basketball side and you're an 8 seed and you go into, like right now they're projected to go into UConn. You go to Stores and you have to play the number 1 seed. If you get out of the 8-9 seed bracket, like it's just, that's where NC State's backed themselves into right now. And I think that's the more frustrating part about this team is the fact that they have the talent across the board to have gotten themselves in a better position, similar to the men's side. But you also have, you have the program.
It doesn't feel very deep
built.
either. It doesn't feel very deep. I feel like he only really trusts maybe 6.
And that's typically, I will say this, to Westmore's credit, he typically only plays 7 or maybe 8 players at the end of the season, anyways.
But the drop off is, I feel like, way heavier than what he's accustomed to.
Exactly. And if anybody gets into foul trouble, right now it's Kaishi Lunan going in at the point guard position, who's been very good. But that's a massive drop-off compared to Zoe Brooks or Sam Jones or anything along those lines in terms of experience, in terms of what you have once you get to the postseason. So that's the frustrating element for the women's side of things is the fact that you haven't built a good enough resume with the team that you have. I know it doesn't have any seniors. They don't have they had to celebrate the student managers as opposed to celebrating anybody on senior day. So that's the positive thing is that you have a lot of those players returning next year, and you can potentially build around them and build up other players from a younger standpoint, like Adelaide Jernigan or Kaishi Lunan as they develop, as they get better. Could they become better bench players for you next year? But going into this year, going into the NCAA tournament, it's just they really dug themselves a deep hole when it comes to the women's side of things.
And I think making the tournament will be good experience. Regardless of how long it is. Maybe you end up meeting UConn in the second round. I'm sure Westmore loves that off of what happened a couple of years ago, playing not in UConn necessarily, but in UConn territory and what was the Elite 8 at that point. So I'm sure he loves that. But it is a young roster. I think in terms of next year, player retention is going to be huge. I think just finding a consistent scoring threat, maybe not a project as what a girl trying to make the leap. A girl maybe that's already made that leap and has been a consistent proven scorer at another level, at a high level, will really benefit for next year.
Yeah, and the other unfortunate part is we were robbed of, and maybe not, maybe it'll still happen, but Camille Pierre potentially going back to Vanderbilt and playing at the number 2 seed would have been interesting.
Got to bring her back. I think.
That's the number 1 priority.
The men's side, I think it's Matt Abel, number 1 priority, and then for the women's side, it's Pierre, number 1 priority.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously you want to bring back players like Zoe Brooks. You want to bring back Sam Jones. You just the question mark for this team is how much better can you get from a 3-point standpoint? Because what you have in Camille Pierre. You have a consistent ball handler, playmaker in Zoe Brooks, but Sam Jones has been good from 3. But really, outside of that, you haven't had anybody else that's really giving you, not from a volume standpoint. Like there's been good shooters on this team, from an efficiency standpoint, but not from a volume standpoint that you really, really trust on 3-pointers. And I think that's going to be something that has to be a focus this offseason for this team to get better there, whether it's through the transfer portal or the players that you have on your roster getting that much better.
Sometimes you hit in the portal and sometimes you don't. You've seen guys at NC State and girls at NC State that have really worked out in the portal. And it's honestly, historically, when you look at the portal for both teams outside of men's last year, we'll throw that out. But if you look back at both rosters past couple of years, there have been some great ads in the portal. And I think now for both these teams, especially men's and women's this year, you're seeing some the other aspects of the portal. It's not going to be a 100% hit rate. Will Wade did it in 3 weeks. Westmore, sometimes it doesn't work out. It's just the nature of how college basketball is nowadays.
Yeah, Westmore also needs to get some more money, but
that will help too. Which is unfortunate because it shouldn't be a money game, but that's a problem for another day.
Yeah. All right, so let's wrap this thing up with baseball. Just quickly to touch on, obviously softball, I believe, is on a 16-game winning streak now at this point, if I remember correctly. I know it was 15. I can't remember how many games they ended up winning over the weekend. But softball on a 15 or 16 game winning streak, whatever it is right now, it's a program record. So just want to give a quick shout out to them. An amazing start. Not a great start actually to beginning of the season, but now that they've come home, been able to play some games at home, they've gotten off to a really good start. We'll see where this team is once they get into ACC play. And then on the wrestling side, frustrating to finish third in the ACC and have a couple wrestlers not even make it to the semifinals, much less the finals. But shout out to Maddie Singleton, shout out to Isaac Trumbull for both making it and winning. Also, I believe NC State got five wrestlers into the NCAA tournament. We'll see if they're able to get a couple others with some other qualifiers and potential there. But not a great overall weekend for wrestling. But shout out to Maddie Singleton, back-to-back ACC championships, and Isaac Trumbull for winning his first, which was surprising to me. Injury last year cost him and left him not being able to get it. But this year finishes out, was really strong all weekend long. And again, ends up putting together a strong performance to be able to finish things out and get to not only the NCAA tournament, but probably will be at worst a 2 seed after finishing completely undefeated on the season. So we'll see where he lands once it gets to that point. But on the baseball side of things, started out really strong, yet potentially the biggest win of the season, 6-4 over Coastal Carolina. And then you go into the weekend and also won against Queens too, by the way. You go into the weekend and it's like, all right, well, it should be easy. You just go 5-0 on the week. And then Ryan Marone suffers some bicep soreness. We won't go into the entire background here, but Elliott Avent, goes with an unheralded player at the beginning of the game, gives up 5 runs in the first inning, and it doesn't look great. And then they ultimately lose by 5 runs against a Lafayette team that came into the weekend at 0-7 overall. Just your thoughts on the way that NC State was able to kind of rally back from that, though. Jacob Duden, a strong performance from him. Cooper Consiglio has looked really strong on Sundays. Yet again, we'll see what he does against better competition, which is always a question mark for him. But 2 guys that were elite relievers for you 2 years ago, once again elite on the mound, and then NC State's offense took care of business, whether it was Ty Head hitting a home run, Dalton Bargo hitting a home run in his first game back, Mike Ryan hitting a home run on Saturday, and then Preston Bond making the case for being maybe a little bit more in the rotation of catchers, given the fact that Drew Lamphere had 2 hits in the previous 11 games, and then Preston Bond hits 3 in one game, including 2 home runs in what was his first start.
Yeah, I thought that was the question mark coming into the year is what you're going to do at catcher with obviously Sosa going to Miami. I don't disagree with Avent, not starting Marone. There's bigger and better games to be played. Yeah. You want him 100% healthy. Don't disagree with the call. Questionable on who the starter was, but I mean, hey, we'll go with it. I think the bigger issue is, similar to football and the ACC's initiative for ACC not playing non-power 4 teams like, App or whatever. I don't know what a game like Lafayette does for you, either from a confidence standpoint or RPI standpoint. Yeah. I'm sure you'll mention it, but I mean, we've failed to 160th in RPI. I know everybody's looking, we're top 10 in the country. Well, you're 160th in RPI, which is what kind of the committee looks at for seeding, for hosting kind of potential. So I'm not really sure what it does for you outside maybe, we can hit home runs. We can beat up on good pitching. You kind of want to see, NC State kind of schedule teams that are obviously not maybe as good to kind of get you warmed up for what is a tough ACC slate and what will be kind of the decider of your season and where you sit, because you do benefit from that. But playing teams that low in the conference, even one or that low in the RPI, that low in the nation, is going to hurt you regardless if you lose one game. Obviously, you love that they bounce back. Yeah. Or if they didn't bounce back, they might even be outside the top 25 in general. I mean, it's a team in Lafayette that hadn't won a game all year. So definitely was, you salvaged the weekend. You obviously compare a good Coastal Carolina win on Wednesday. They just beat my ECU hometown team over the weekend. So definitely a good Coastal Carolina team. I know they had some injuries, especially on the pitching staff. So they're kind of on a slide trying to figure out some things, but still definitely a good quality win. You're moving into a team in Boston College, which it's Boston College, not infamously a good baseball team, but they just went to Miami and took the series. So not the worst series to get started out with if you're looking at an ACC slate that's loaded. I mean, you got Georgia Tech, the top 10, Clemson right behind you at 11. So you definitely have some good ACC teams, which will hopefully help bolster what has been a bad loss against Princeton and now a really bad loss against Lafayette, which in totality maybe won't hurt you. But there's an account on Twitter, I'm sure, Corey, you've seen it. I think his name's like Pecan. He's like the net guy for college baseball, and he's saying like, oh man, I've never seen a team with these two bad of a losses ever host. Yeah. We'll see. I mean, it is a loaded ACC slate, so there's definitely some time to recover and kind of fix those issues. But I just really don't know what those types of games kind of do for you. I wish NC State would schedule more like what Wade did, playing Liberty, VCU, and how obviously NC State football has done in the past as well.
Yeah, the ACC currently ranks as a conference number 2 in the RPI. So you will, regardless of who you face, which Boston College actually number 72 in the RPI. They're one of the worst outside of NC State.
Higher than NC State, 160. I mean.
Yeah, exactly. But Clemson currently sitting at number 3, Florida State sitting at number 6. Several others that you're going to face throughout the season. Virginia inside the top 20. Obviously, UNC will move up there. Wake Forest right now at number 25.
UVA is good too. It's loaded.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying is like you're going to face those teams. That's why you kind of front load it with some bad teams, and you hope for some rainouts late in the season against teams that you scheduled in the middle in midweek games. But that's where NC State kind of stands right now. But again,
schedule low, but not that low.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's my point.
Exactly.
I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, but you also never know if a team's going to go 0-7 to start the season coming into it. But yeah. I do agree with you. Also, part of it too is the fact that for this baseball team, you might have scheduled an ECU, and then you look at the fact that ECU started off 7-4 on the season or had a losing record at one point in the season. It's like, how good does that look if they just fall apart? So, but most of the time you should be scheduling based off of that. But you also have midweek games against ECU. You have midweek games against Coastal Carolina. So you have those on your resume. You just now need to take care of business in the ACC. Finish above 500 in the ACC. You put yourself in great position to potentially
host. I know we pay Lafayette too. Probably a good pay to come here. But so it's like maybe schedule a little bit of a better team. Get some good competition, get some good pitching that you're facing against. You're probably not paying them as much because they probably think you have a chance to win against you. I mean, I don't know. It's a head scratcher. It's like Lafayette. No offense to Lafayette. I'm not trying to crap on Lafayette, but it's like. What's the real value?
No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, but what is the real value for you? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out really quickly to several guys on this team. Obviously, have strong starts, but Jacob Duden. I mean, what he's done to start off the season. Another game where he pitched more than 6 innings. Like the guy came into the season never pitching more than 4 innings in a single game, and he's just been an absolute stud for you. I think a lot of people expected that coming into the season. It's one thing to expect it. It's another thing to deliver. Yeah. He was expected to be the best reliever in baseball last year. Did not deliver that early on in the season. Now for him to be as good as he has been, to pitch 115 pitches in the last outing, 6.2 innings overall. He now has an ERA sitting at 1.11 on the season. Just been a stud for you. In the last 3 starts that he's had, 10-plus strikeouts in each one of those games. So wants to try to
simplify some stuff. It feels
exactly.
If you're pitching that long, it's not as much razzle dazzle as it is for a relief pitcher going 2 innings. But
the other element to this too is he said he was going to go fastball heavy, and he's still throwing. Yeah, exactly. He's getting strikeouts with those off-speed pitches. So clearly that's still a major element to his game. So all right. I think that'll just about wrap up this edition of the Pack Power Weekly Podcast. I appreciate Charlie for jumping on. Appreciate Miles for jumping on. Thank you to each and every single one of you that were on here, and thank you to our entire crowd. Appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you again soon.